Roberts & Roberts Brokerage presents Keenevention 2015's Old School Panel. Roberts & Roberts, when you're serious about precious metals. Online at rrbi.co. All right, with no further ado, I want to say welcome to our panel host, who is a big, I'm a big fan of his, and he's been a listener of mine for a long time. He's a critic of mine as well, and I love a good critic who's an activist. You know, I respect the opinions of people who actually get out there and do things rather than people who snipe from the peanut gallery and who don't actually have any street cred. Denis Goddard has cred. He's done a lot of activism. He's been a television host. He's been in the State House quite a bit, testifying and lobbying and doing all that stuff. And he's also been here for a long time, so I thought he'd be the perfect host for the Old School Panel, which we're bringing back this year. We didn't have it last year. We did it the first year with Johnny Ray, so I'm glad it's back. I think it's an important panel, and he's got a panel full of distinguished early movers that he will introduce to you. So, Denis, enjoy your panel.
Thank you, Ann. So first I want to let everybody know one of the panelists that I was really excited to have here with us unfortunately cannot be here with us today. Her name is Jen Coffey, and once you've been elected to the House of Representatives in the state of New Hampshire, the title Honorable does stick with you for the rest of your life. The Honorable Jen Coffey cannot be with us tonight. She's feeling a bit under the weather. She's had some real health issues, and we wish her a speedy recovery and feeling good soon. I did threaten to tell everyone that she was too busy kicking ass, and honestly, that's what she's done. I have to embarrass her a little bit because she can't be here. I have to let people know who maybe aren't aware of this amazing lady. She moved to New Hampshire with her husband at the time more than 10 years ago. She was an EMT, an emergency medical technician, very well respected very quickly in the community. Helping save people's lives for your job has that effect. She ran for the state house at the time when the Republican Party did not appreciate Free Staters coming in and being Free Staters and running as Free Staters, and I'm sure at least one of the other panelists can tell us a little bit more about that. Jen was responsible for, she was the primary sponsor for the bill that is now famous for having repealed all knife laws from the state of New Hampshire. In the state of New Hampshire, there are no laws regarding knives, and it's specifically and largely individually because of the efforts of Jen Coffey. So we all thank her for that. She was also extremely, she's not like past tense, all right? She's probably going to watch this later. She was extremely involved with the fight against Real ID when the state of New Hampshire was chosen to be the recipient of $3 million in federal funds, which for New Hampshire is serious money, if only we would comply with the program. Jen is one of the people who were really activists and really motivated people to help organize and make it possible for the governor at the time to say, no, I don't care who in the federal government says or does whatever. I know that I stand for the people of New Hampshire when I say we will not participate in the federal Real ID program or any de facto national identification program that may follow therefrom. Those exact words are now in our state laws, in part because of the activism of Jen Coffey. So we thank her and hope to see her around soon. We do have with us, I'll start from my far side, as it were, the Honorable Calvin Pratt. And actually, as I introduce you, let's have you talk a little bit about yourself in terms of your name, your mover number, your social security number, and about when you came in. Say something. Yeah.
I need a social security number? Cal Pratt. I moved here, memory fades, December 5th, 2003. I think my mover number is someplace between 4 and 7, something. I really don't know. It's in that area. My wife and I came together. We moved from New Jersey. Can't tell you too much about it. I just had really campaigned. My handle at that time on the forum was FSP Talker. And I campaigned heavily for New Hampshire because it was only a 300-mile move for me, for one thing. And I thought New Hampshire was the right choice. And of course, we now find out that it was.
All right. Our next panelist has the distinction of being the very first, you can tell your great-grandchildren about this, the very first mover for the Free State Project. Jacqueline Casey, thank you much for joining us.
Hi. So I guess the actual number was technically 0 because I didn't answer the email in time, and They called me and said, "Hey, is 0 okay?" And I thought, it's better than okay. It sounds kind of cool. So I wanted to find a liberty-oriented, I guess, place to live before I knew that there was a Free State Project, and I was wandering around looking. So that's why it was so easy for me to be the mover zero. So I was the truck was gassed up, I guess you could say. But I guess that's about it. I moved in 2003, right? Oh boy. It was the escape to New Hampshire, actually, and it was Elizabeth, and it was, and we had a housewarming party, and John and Rosalie Babiars and everybody. It was very, very warm people of New Hampshire welcoming us to come. So it's been really great.
Okay, and on the red microphone, Kathleen and Dawn Converse. I have no idea what you guys' mover number is. It's awfully low. You were here before I was.
Okay, I believe we were numbers 30 and 31. We moved in. We got here on June 9th, 2004. We moved up here from South Carolina. We moved up here. After the vote. We were part of the vote, and funny thing, New Hampshire wasn't on the top of our list, but we had part of the vote was that you got to decide whether you wanted to. Whether they let you choose that if one of the states that you didn't want to move to was selected, that you could opt out. And we decided we wouldn't opt out of any of them, regardless of which one of the 10 were chosen. So in 2003, the vote took place. At the time, we didn't know when we were going to move. I happened to get laid off my job in about February or March of 2004. And it was basically, we just kind of looked at each other and said, well, if I got to look for a job somewhere, why not New Hampshire? And so we took care of pretty much selling everything off. Came up with just a few boxes. And we came up here just before Port Fest. We drove around for at least a month or so, and then we spent some time in Nashua, and then we found an apartment in Manchester, and pretty much been here ever since.
It was a challenge, spur of the moment. I'm glad we came. We didn't know what we were walking into. We didn't have a community as newer movers have. There was nothing established. It was just, I can live anywhere, and if we're going to build a community, let's start it. We had met Jason Sorens a number of times and believed in the project and thought this is what we should do. So we sold everything. It was the best way to be flexible, but still have a little nest egg to get established. And it took a while, longer than we expected. But with the house sold and all the furniture sold and everything, we had a little bit of a nest egg, and we could rent for a while before the job actually came about. But it's been a journey, and I wouldn't change a thing.
All right, with the introductions aside, a little bit of a note about how we're going to structure this. I'm going to ask one question. I want each of the panelists to answer it, and then in my normal, actual, real life, I'm very interrupt-driven. It's like a technology thing, so I'm used to interruptions all the time. So rather than waiting till the end for your questions, I'll say after this first question, I have lots of questions lined up for the luminaries on the panel, but if y'all have questions, I'll ask y'all to come up and start asking them, because we like to be interrupted. So I want to start off with a quick story from each of you. I want you to share something that you personally did that increased our freedoms and liberties here in New Hampshire as a result of your direct action. Let me start with you, Kathleen.
Is this the question? All right.
You've been here 10 years. You have to have done something.
Well, there will be more details tomorrow in the jury nullification panel, because I was involved with the jury nullification in 2012. It was, and it was a trial in which we were able to acquit a grower of marijuana in my community. And it was, I am proud that we were able to at least serve some justice in a system, and we don't think there is much justice, but we were able to come to a consensus and unanimously come to a not guilty verdict and save him from going to prison. So that was something that I did that I hope helped, at least in my community, and the community at large, to show that it can happen. You can convince a jury to not acquit someone who has admitted to breaking the law.
Not having a chance to think about this one before, I really can't think of anything right off the top of my head other than you help other movers.
Come on, how many people have you left alone?
I don't know. Yeah, that's true.
A lot.
Yeah, and even all the people I work with at work know I'm a pre-stater, except for maybe the newest guy. So it's not like nobody knows. Gosh, I can't think of anything other than just helping people move. We talked to locals and things like that about some of the stuff. I did do some stuff for reviewing bills for the NHLA. So it's just various activities over the years.
So are you saying it wasn't actually necessary to either completely commit your life to having a public office or to spend any time in jail, and yet you still contributed by being a positive member of the community?
That is correct.
It's amazing. All right, Jackie?
I think that was really my answer. I left a lot of people alone, an awful lot. But that I used to say that when I went to my various jobs that I've had here while I've been here, when people say, oh, the Free State people are coming here to, change things or whatever. And I'm like, no, we're coming here to leave you alone, and that's it. But so I guess I'm a little along with you. I don't think I could say I did anything in particular that is measurable. But I think that probably there have been some non-measurable things that I've sort of done. I did run for office, but I did not win. But I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. I met all my neighbors. It was a very good experience. I did that a couple of times. Not really interested in doing it again, but it was a good experience. I did have a good time with it. But other than that, I think that just a lot of it has, especially most recently, been just talking to just the people, everyday life, because, like you said, certain people have the, adrenaline junkie, jail trip, whatever thing or whatever, but and some people don't have that in them, or that's not their part, but the people you interact with every day, I've talked to a lot of New Hampshire natives and just people, New Hampshire people here since I've been, and I think I just always try to just plant that tiny little seed and put a bug in someone's ear, or try to give it a positive image, make it a positive thing. Don't when people are talking about, say, guns or something, a scary quote unquote issue. In New Hampshire, I guess guns isn't one of those, but you can always put it in a positive light, and so that they don't look at people who embrace liberty as some kind of alien.
Oh, I love waiting in line at the post office. Like, hey, did you know that the government just can't do squat? Yeah. So, little seeds and little ears. All right, Mr. Pratt.
I think Dennis is already familiar with our mutual accomplishment. I was the first research director for the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance at a time when that was not a board position, and I thought it should be. So if anything, I would have to say that's probably the accomplishment I'm most happy with. And of course, I've had excellent people follow in my footsteps since then.
So, being a state representative, championing things like same-sex marriage, championing legalizing marijuana, these are minor things they didn't really...
Well, what the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance is doing in the research of bills right now, I think is, one of the things that people most recognize them for. And at the time, we had no clue. I mean, it was me, Tony Leckus, and Keith Murphy, and at that time, he wasn't even living in state yet. And so the three of us put that together. I wrote the intro that's still being used on the front cover of the Liberty Alliance. All 4 paragraphs were mine. And they're still using that today. I thought it was a good description. I forgot where I stole it from, but
And
yeah.
for the record, we still use your criteria, or 90% of your criteria for evaluating whether a bill is a good or a bad bill. In the automated system, it's the stuff that you wrote down. It's like, well, does it do this? Does it do that? So thank you.
Well, don't forget, I didn't do that alone. I said I had Keith Murphy and Tony Leckus helping. So it was a community thing.
Well, and I will say, many hands make light work with about 1,000 bills per year that the legislature puts out. If it's 3 people going through 1,000 bills, you can imagine that's like meat grinder. And if it's a couple of hundred people going through a few thousand bills, and those people that just maybe review 2 or 3 bills in the year and go, oh, I only did 2 or 3 bills, you saved our collective butts. Thank you for everyone who does that. nhliberty.org. There are questions from the audience. Yes, Mr. Darrell Perry.
So currently there's pretty much a Liberty event happening every day, multiple events on most days. And I would dare say it's almost impossible for Free Staters now to wind up meeting every other Free Stater that is in the state. But I've heard about back in the day, there would be Free Stater gatherings to where all 30 of you would wind up getting together for events. So could you talk about sort of how it, the feeling of being able to actually know everybody, but also sort of the downside of sort of feeling like, wow, I'm only one of 30, whereas now I'm one of almost 2,000.
I'll take this one. Most of us back in 2003 and 2004 came from areas where we were just learning about libertarianism. We were maybe involved with the Libertarian Party. We were a little dismayed that you can spend 3 or 4 years and every month show up to see the same 6 faces. And just the thought that maybe we could build a bigger community if we were together and not spread out, from coast to coast. So we knew we weren't coming to someplace with an established community, but the opportunity was exciting that we might. So yes, we get here. It took us a few months to get settled enough to even look for a gathering, but by the fall of 2004, we had found those 30 people who would gather from all parts of the state and meet in one room, and I found it was exciting. It wasn't depressing. I found it was exciting, and we all had ideas, and we could discuss things, and we could work together, and we didn't mind going all the way across the state to Keene or all the way to Portsmouth or wherever we were going to go. We didn't mind it at all to see the same 30 people because we now had more than 6, and we were willing to work together, and we all understood. And for me personally, it was a fine-tuning of my libertarian principles. I mean, within a year, you have to admit you're an anarchist. I mean, it just makes sense. So that's how you get it. It wasn't depressing in the least. I find it a little bit harder now that there are 2,000 people, and I can't know everyone, and I can't go to all these places because I don't have the energy. I'm 11 years older, and we've established a lifestyle that I kind of like. I found my little cabin in the woods, and I kind of like staying there. So I find it a little harder now not being part of all of these exciting things that I know are going on. But when I see all these events every day, you have 3 events today, you have 4 events today, and I know I'm not going to 3 or 4 events every day. There's a nice community in Manchester, they're going to handle this one. There's a nice community in Keene, they're going to handle this one. And so I get a little bit sad now.
I just have one addendum to that specific question. One of the things, there's an aphorism that many hands lighten the load, One of the things that we don't talk about is that almost every one of those early people who were heavily involved went through at least one burnout, including myself, where we had to just step back. And I imagine that might be happening now for people who are really on the front lines, but I don't see as much of it now. We seem to be much more positive about ourselves, our community. So that's one thing that's a little different.
And knowing that many hands make light work, we heard the new movers talk about how it took like 30 minutes to unload all of their possessions out of their moving trucks. How long did it take you guys to unload when you first moved, especially mover 0, Jackie?
Okay, I did live in it, but it was brief. I lived in my truck briefly. It broke down, but I made it. But for the first question, it's been so exciting. I can't even describe it. The first year I came, when it was Escapes New Hampshire, the kids, like all the kids of all the people, I don't know, there might have been an equal number of kids as adults. It seemed like there was a lot of children. And they put on a spectacular fireworks show for us, which was it was a very exciting thing just to see them all working together and doing it, and so proud of it. And then I thought, gosh, what could ever be more exciting than just sitting here in this field? And actually, I remember it's a long time ago, and I'm 11 years older as well, 12 years older. And we were all sitting, all of us, all the Free Staters were sitting in a big circle in a field. And you could just sit us all, and we're looking at each other. We're doing I don't remember what we were doing, but talking and communication because the circle formation. And then each year, I haven't been to now I try to, get to, one thing a year, whether it's this year's going to be Port Fest, or it's going to be Liberty Forum, or it's going to be whatever. So it's been more and more exciting because I see more and more people, and it's hard to remember their faces and names. I mean, I remember the faces, it's hard to remember the names. So it's really, really escalating, exciting, but I got the burnout, and it lasted years for me, and I see that I'll probably be coming back soon because I'm get to missing it, But as far as unloading, I paid professional movers to unload my stuff, or to load and to help, and and I had to make 2 trips out because I had a cat. I flew him and got him here, and my landlady was very, very good, very easy to. It was very easy to find a place to live, and I went with the want ads. I didn't know anyone. I shouldn't say that. My father lives here, has lived in New Hampshire all his life, but I have had very little contact throughout my life with my father, including my time here. I just rarely have seen my father, so I'm not very close to him. So yes, he lived here, but I didn't move in with him or move here to see him or anything, and I might have seen him a handful of times since I've lived here. But so I came here for the Free State Project. I came here to be among people who are wicked smart, wicked cool, don't want me in jail, and have a really awesome head on their shoulders. I love the people that are here, like in this room, and then all of these people that I keep. And so that's what's so exciting is that all the movers, the people and the energy is really, really escalating, and we're going to have a really serious community really, really soon. It's mind-blowing.
I want to jump in briefly and comment the whole many hands make light work thing, and being myself director of research for a while at New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, and then it was like too much for me, and I had to pass it on. And the guy, what I love about this, and I'm sure Calvin can relate, because I came after you, the guy who comes after you does a better job than the job that you did. And then the guy that comes after does a better job. And speaking of Liberty Alliance and new people doing new tech stuff, and just recently one of the members of the Liberty Alliance and a relatively new mover named Seamus put together a little mobile app so that you can keep track of the bills and see what's going on in the legislature on your phone. It's like, the Libertarian Party, the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party, they don't have that technology on their smartphone. We do because of just some guy that showed up and did something. I love that. And I also wanted to mention, you mentioned children. I just want to say, I don't know if people may be watching, they haven't seen some of these Free Stater things. You can't get all the Free Staters now in one room, but when you do, sometimes, does it feel like the Romper Room Project? Because all these kids, these people are having kids. Bruno, you wanted to ask a question.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you guys. I want to make a mention to this TED Talk. I think it's relatively famous. There's one guy who's dancing in a festival or something, and other people come and join and dance with him.
Can you do that some more? That was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. And so the TED Talk emphasizes the importance of followers to any movement. It's followers who make an idea become a movement. And those people, those first followers are you guys. So thank you. Thank you a lot. If people join. Thank you guys too for the applause. And I would like to, for you guys, I think Jackie already has said something, but I would like you guys to comment more on the people who are already here, the 200 and something people who convinced basically when there was the vote. From what I understand, from what I hear, talking to people who were present at the time of the vote, these people were here already, and they were like doing stuff already, and they said, look, we do things already. We come join us because we are already sort of doing that. And how did they help you or integrate you personally, you guys, in after you moved, all of you?
I want to pick on Don.
Okay. I guess the first influence was that several of those people were part of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party. And we actually joined, and we were working with them for a while. But again, it was like you go to the meeting and you see the same 5 or 6 people. And apparently, and we kept trying to explain to those poor folks that, yes, most of these people were Libertarian Party members, but that's basically, we've been there, done that. It doesn't work, move on. And so that's kind of why I think that the Libertarian Party here was thinking, here we're going to get 20,000 new people in our party, and we're going to go boom. And I think they're really disappointed it didn't happen. But again, it's like, we're already there, we've done that, or we kind of gone through that back door of the Libertarian Party and now anarchist. And so that's kind of what happened with them. But they're all really nice people, and it would be kind of nice to support them in a few other little things, but that's kind of where we were.
Okay, I want to throw a maybe a little bit more tough question to our panel. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Well, actually, first a little easy, then a little hard. Yeah, you better shake. They quiver when they quiver before the... So in the years that you guys have been in New Hampshire, could you highlight for us one example of a really positive thing that you saw, whether it's an activism thing or whatever it was, something that you saw that a Free Stater did that made a difference, that you said, wow, there's now more liberty in New Hampshire, or wow, that brought a lot of people on side with our philosophy?
Well, the one that comes to mind is one you already mentioned, and that was Real ID. It was tremendous. It was huge. It wasn't just Jen Coffey, though she worked very hard. There was Joel Winters. It was just tremendous amount of work, and a huge community came together and held together and triumphed. And it got a lot of attention. So I'm really proud of that. I think that was tremendous in the early years.
And of course, New Hampshire had already a strong tradition of being kind of not security. What's the privacy-minded? Like on your driver's license already when we got here, you don't have to have. For those of you who don't know, you don't have to have your picture on your New Hampshire driver's license. You don't have to have your social security number. You don't even have to have your home address on your driver's license. Okay, you can. Yeah, really, that's the law before we even got here. And so, like that, connecting to an existing thing and taking it to the next level, to where it's we're not just pro-privacy, but we're saying screw you, federal government, you can't have our info. That latching on to something that was already here and pushing it to the next level, where we were agreeing with some of the natives, like we're on your side and fighting for you and with you, not with you. So yeah, okay, Jackie, you, what did you see?
Well, one thing that I think was kind of interesting that I saw or heard about was, I guess, from a person that lives here in New Hampshire. Actually, Steve, my boyfriend, sitting right there, he works in Salem. He used to work in Salem and is a tattoo artist, and he was talking to a customer, and when he heard something from a police officer who knew all about the Free State Project, but he didn't know he's didn't know Steve, like he's just some random guy, right? He was getting a tattoo or whatever. And he's like, oh, we know about them. And he's telling him about how, well, we are doing our homework and we're gonna get our heads together, and we're gonna match their knowledge of our law better, because they're the ones that know. We want to bump into us because of the activism. So when I hear that from a person that had nothing to do with the free state, they're not coming to me, or they don't know me, they don't know anyone, and this is just what the locals are talking about here, just people are talking. So when I hear that, like third hand, I guess you could say, sort of, that's kind of a, what's the statistical likelihood, that you're just going to hear something like that out of the blue from, Steve comes home and says, guess what? And guess who knows who you guys are? Who's that? Oh, the police. Well, I'm not surprised, but to hear that it's that, much of a, I was kind of struck by it. So.
Let me put Cal on the spot. Something positive you've seen in the last decade? Anything?
Both of you have already touched on what happened with the Real ID, and that was a big deal. But one of the things, and it almost relates to the previous question, in that we were alone as free staters, but we weren't alone as activists in this state. And what our presence did here, even when there was just a handful of us here, is it re-energized the liberty community. You mentioned the libertarians. There were the Second Amendment people. There's Ed Nail and his tax fighters. And we were welcomed by all of these groups. And they were looking toward what we're seeing here now, which is that this didn't fizzle. It's getting bigger. So I would say that the Free State Project itself would be my candidate for something really big that happened here.
All right, Taryn.
Yeah, I'd like to know, since you guys have been in it a while, how did you deal with activism burnout? Like, after 10 years of doing this, I know I've changed a lot in the last few years. What's happened with you guys? How did you keep still going?
Pot helps.
Yeah.
I guess that's my problem.
That's a former state representative, Calvin Pratt.
Our little cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
I got very easy and comfortable with saying no. And that is tough. It was tough for a long time when the numbers were small and we wanted to do a lot, and I found myself going everywhere and holding signs and, making phone calls, and I, as an accountant, I took on treasurer of this and treasurer of that and treasurer of what all, and at some point it's like, all right, time to pass it off, I learned to say no. And sometimes I'm sorry, and sometimes I feel guilty. It's like I should be doing more, but I'm focusing more on creating a freer life for myself. We've gotten more involved in healthy lifestyles and eating and sourcing local foods and all of those things that we need freedom to do, because there is a lot of interference in those lifestyle issues from the systems we're fighting. So we need more freedoms, and so I'm teaching people where I can about these issues, that we need to eat better, we need to fight the agricultural conglomerates and the pharmaceutical conglomerates and all these things that are going to kill us if we don't. And to me, that's a freedom issue.
How are you making, what kind of examples or headway you're making in those areas? Because I'm more interested, obviously, in food health and in alternative health.
Right.
What kind of things are you guys doing?
Those things are getting better here, just because we're getting vocal. Those of us who have done the research and learned issues, we're getting more vocal. We're
have you guys
creating groups?
I'm sorry.
We're creating groups. We have people. We have a network whereby we know where we can get clean meat and things like this that we didn't even know about in years past, and so we're communicating this among ourselves such that I don't, if the economy goes bad, I don't want these places going under because they're small businesses, and they're just trying to survive. So I need to help build their customer base so that it will be there for me if times get tough.
So am I understanding correctly? Cal says pot, you say raw milk.
Right. Got that.
Very
I
good.
just meant like Cal. Did you guys actually see bills and stuff coming across taxing, organic foods and stuff like that? Did you see stuff in the legislation?
In New Hampshire, it's
Yeah.
actually the opposite.
That's what I'm curious. If
I mean, one of the worst reps, Tara Sad, actually sponsored a raw milk bill, and we got that passed because every now and then they do something intelligent. So, you vote for it.
so, like, food seems to be a common ground that you guys can make headway in.
The particular committee that I sat on for 6 years actually oversaw the Department of Agriculture and a number of other things. And one of the things that we tried to do was, for instance, we only have one federal meat inspector for the entire state. So we just simply tried to get another, and he happens to be in Goffstown, by the way. So we figured that's ridiculous. Our farming community, they were actually taking their cows out into the field and shooting them and leaving them there as carcasses because there were so many problems with the things that were going on. That is getting better, but there's still work to be done. So the agricultural community here is very vital, and it's very close to the local people. And if that's what you're interested in going into, do it. Don't wait. Just go do it.
Thanks.
I have another really quick on the burnout. I've had many episodes of burnout as an activist, even long before I came to New Hampshire, because I was an activist back since the day. I found a resource on the web that and the guy spoke here, freedomainradio.com. It's a web thing. Yeah, he has a lot of information on techniques to get over burnout, deal with it. Kathleen's idea about enjoying the freedom that you came here for, rubbing the elbows with these smart people, trying to get some of that smart rubbed off on you. And there were really good. I went to the last Liberty Forum, and there was a guy given actually several really good talks on growing techniques and composting and all kinds of different. So there's a lot on, and I grow and juice daily organic wheatgrass myself. We have our garden, and we do a lot of that as well to avoid the poison.
Yep, I'm with you. Thanks, guys.
All right, I want to throw before we have more audience questions, I want to throw the tough one out now to the panel. This is the one I was waiting for. I would like for y'all to name me an example of ineffective activism that you've seen. Any examples of something that was perhaps well-intentioned that nevertheless resulted in less freedom or a negative view of our philosophy? In the 10 years that you've been here, have you seen anything that you would advise maybe would be problematic?
Topless open carry?
You have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with topless open carry, but I did, in other parts of the country, I did hear flack about this. I did hear people say, what are these crazies doing in New Hampshire? And here I am, from New Hampshire saying, well, we need all kinds of activism.
Don, you're not going to escape just because you're sharing a microphone. He's going to recuse himself. Okay.
I don't remember exactly. Maybe someone could jog my memory. What happened with Chris Cantwell? Wasn't there some kind of a drama thing?
We do not speak his name.
Scandal. Oh, oopsie. So that. Which one? I don't remember. There was so I don't remember exactly, but I know that there was something that caught on, and it got into a gossip thing, and it wasn't really that great. It comes to mind.
Okay. The one I did think of was we did have a little incident where one of the participants at the time was trying to set up what's called the Free Town instead of just the Free State. And there was, and he kind of pushed it to the edge where they were talking about being able to pass local laws to do all sorts of things, marrying goats or things, something like that. It was really bad. And he was eventually expelled from the FSB because of some of his views and stuff like that, because they weren't really freedom as much as, and it really stirred up that town because they were really, really mad. And but fortunately, we got some good people in there now, and so they're doing okay.
So the bestiality and whorehouses thing didn't go over well with some of the natives. I can imagine. Mr. Pratt?
I was thinking that the name you might be looking for, and I may get the last name wrong, is Chuck Gestmeiler or something like that? The Grafton incident, which is not, that's past us now. But I think that's what you're referring to, which is what I was going to talk about. So I have another one. Sometimes we get too aggressive in trying to push our philosophy to the point we actually push people away, which is what you're looking for, Dennis, I think? Yeah. Being the media representative of the Free State Project during the early years, I ended up doing a lot of different things. And one of the things I did was a public access show. And before the show actually began, I watched one of the Free Staters really going after this tech kid over NASA and why the government was the only one who could do that, and the Free Stater was saying, "Oh, no, you're wrong." And it was like a dog with a bone. He would not leave this kid alone. What was wrong with you, Dennis?
He was asking for it. Kid on a public access TV show wanting to do about NASA, and my last name is Goddard, so you can't take NASA from me. Question from the audience, Ms. Kirstine.
So you've all been talking about different forms of ineffective and effective activism that you've seen personally, but for people who are new, if a new person came up to you and said, what's the one thing I should do now that I've moved here? What's the one form of activism that you would advocate for?
Everyone all at once, please. The libertarian wants to know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a very difficult problem to answer, mainly because if I don't know who you are, I can't really tell you what might be the best thing for you, because it's going to be what's going to be the best thing for you, and you're the only one who's going to be able to know what that answer. Okay, I would advise going to different meetings, going to different meetups, check out different areas, and learn what you think you might be most interested in. Verify that you're okay with those people who are already doing that, or if you can't find anything specific, that you start something new for yourself. There's plenty of other things that are out there that can be done, but that would be my answer: is just go and figure it out yourself, because you're the only one who's going to be able to figure that out.
I'm going to just add an addendum to that. I would also suggest go with your strengths. It's, if there might be something that you really want to do, but you're not terribly knowledgeable or qualified to do that, find somebody else within the community that can do that. In the meantime, you have to find out what it is that you want to do and what you will do well at, and go with that and then build on that. Not everyone can be a state rep. It's not a job I would recommend, but I hope Free Staters keep doing that, because we can't let State House fall into the hands of authoritarians. So, but whatever it is, some people do civil disobedience, and some people do media, and some people, whatever it is, do that. I mean, the philosophy of liberty applies across the board, regardless of what you choose to do.
Just do nothing. Don't do anything to anyone. Preempt burnout and simply wait until something so irresistible comes along, and then pour your soul in it.
All right, we only have a few minutes left, so I'll ask our next questions to be brief, but please, those who have not yet asked.
Well, half my question was pretty much her question. I'd just like to add, do you think working within the community is more valuable than getting involved with politics? In the past, I was involved with politics, but got burnt out. I just don't even want to talk to those people anymore. So what do you feel is more important? Is that still the priority is we got to get involved with the state? And
I personally believe that we need to start as local as possible, and that means yourself. You need to be comfortable and confident with what you can accomplish in this life, want to accomplish, what your goals are. Are you doing them? Are you not harming anyone in the process? Are you going to make progress and be who you want to be? So start local and move out from there, because your neighbors are very important. Your family is very important. And may be more important in the future. I think it's important to have the strength, the strength that whatever strength you can create in yourself, in your family, your community, and move out from there. Now, here we do have an accessible legislature, so I'm not saying don't get involved with politics, but make sure you've covered your bases first, because I think the local is much more critical in the long term for our comfort and our productivity and our security. You know, I believe in being prepared. I'm a prepper. You know, be prepared. Be prepared for the good times. Be prepared for the bad times. Take care of yourself, your family, your community, your state. And I include this community, even though it's wider and across the strait, I include this community almost as close as my family. This is important to me because we back each other up, and that's what I call security and preparation, is to back each other up.
I have to put Cal Pratt on the line with this one. You have to answer this question, because you, of the group, are the one that's been all the way up into the system.
I went there to monkey wrench the system. I didn't really work in it. I didn't sponsor very many bills. I co-sponsored some bills. I just wanted to make sure bad stuff didn't happen. And even though I didn't spend a lot of time trying to work bills through the system, one of the ones I'm proudest of course, is the nanobrewery bill. You know, that was one of the best ones, and I think that was...
Tell us a little bit more about that, because these are the stories that we need to share. We old people.
Actually, you might want to get Mark Warden up here, because he put in a lot of legwork on that one, along with him and Kevin Bloom. So, I mean, they actually wrote the legislation and pushed it through, and I was there as the voice of reason, going, don't go too fast now, don't ask for too much. No, they will never give you 12 ounces. So. But, yeah, there was that. Again, the main thing is, even if you run, and I really shouldn't say this because it's not something I would encourage people to do, but you can run, get a seat, go to orientation, get sworn in, show up for sessions every now and then. I'd rather see a free stater in one of those seats than an authoritarian. So if nothing else, you can block that. And this is a tactic that's used by our opposition a lot, to keep good people from being elected. I wouldn't recommend it, though. If politics is not your strength, find something that is. Do that.
And of course, I have to give my plug. 90% of you, even who move for the Free State Project, won't do this. But when there's a bill that kind of like you have a bug up your butt about and you have an opinion on, don't like post on Facebook to all your libertarian friends how you feel. You have a state rep that kind of has to listen to you. Bug them, because 90% of the time they don't hear about every bill. They don't hear about these bills. And now if it's, you know, legalizing pot or same-sex marriage, yeah, they probably heard a lot about it. But still, you probably want to talk to them about that. All right, Mr. Perry.
So I'm glad on the one hand that you asked the question about some of the ineffective activism, but you asked it in a two-part manner and everybody only answered one part. So I'm here to make sure that everybody answers the second part of the question. What's a form of activism that has been ineffective in that it wound up reducing freedom as the end result? Because all of you only answered this gave us bad publicity or this gave a negative view of Free Staters. So what is something, and there might not even be anything, but try to answer that second part about something that wound up having a negative actual effect of liberties being taken away.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, since it's a hard question and things are getting really, really hard here, but comparatively, I guess it could be argued, not necessarily that I'm arguing it right now, but I certainly have heard the argument that all this political activism endorses the system itself. So, I mean, it could easily be said that the whole, everyone that's not just taking a, say, strictly agorist approach maybe, or, personal-based, immediate, circle-based kind of, approach. I mean, there are certainly people out there arguing or making the case that the time spent, on the hamster wheel is time that's not spent pursuing, say, self-knowledge, as Kathleen was mentioning before, and finding your true. And actually, Cal even said, your true. And actually, all I think everybody has kind of agreed on the common theme of, if we have our self-knowledge and we start with ourself and start to come to New Hampshire, because it's a clean slate of granite that you can paint your new self on. And you're coming from wherever you're coming from, and you come to this new community so that you can, reinvent yourself. It's kind of exciting, and look at it that way, and look at ways that you can just simply improve your own life, and get to know your neighbors, start a garden, stuff like that. Setting the example, with whoever you work with, and people you run into, people that know you, people that are in whatever social circle you're in. So if you're that person that's always looking to develop and grow and seeking self-development, then eventually I guess the person that would argue against political activism, like running for office, for example, which I did a couple of times, and I've even worked on people's campaigns. It does take a lot of time and energy and resources, and if it could be argued that if I had spent that time, could have been time better spent getting to know something about myself that I could have really been better at. I could have pursued something. I might have been the head of some kind of committee right now, let's say, for whatever it is, instead of just trying different little things and seeing if they work. But although not to discredit those who have made a lot of headway in political activism, it's a really tough battle. It's not for everyone.
I don't completely agree with the argument that you're not giving us. I can't overemphasize how important it is not to let the authoritarians take over the State House. We cannot allow that. We have to have some sort of representation there. If, as another Free Stater, Carol McGuire, said, it's a leavening factor. It helps smooth out the debates. And as far as the actual question is concerned, I'm picking my brain here. I can't think of anything that Free Staters have done that wasn't somehow manipulated by the media that actually resulted in less freedom. I
can't come up with anything that actually resulted in. I mean, I might be able to make the argument that something isn't as effective as something else, but as far as overall freedoms, there may have been individual bills or so that have reduced our freedom that we weren't able to stop.
Did you guys ever bring up anything that let the genie out of the bottle, where you're like, man, we shouldn't have brought attention to this, because then they made a committee and it's even worse now?
Plenty of things. One thing comes to mind, because we had so much discussion yesterday on ballot access for third parties. Now, I'd like to see everybody on the ballot, of course we would, but I also see a number of people who have been beating their heads against the wall for 10 years over ballot access, and we still don't have ballot access for third parties in New Hampshire. I remember sitting in one committee with the Election Law Committee. We had a bill on the table. It wasn't great, wasn't bad, but it was an improvement, and everybody on the committee said, we agree, we should have everybody should be on the ballot, but this isn't good, it doesn't this, we'll vote against this one, you bring back a better one next year. And it was just one way to just wash it away, and year after year after year. so yeah, there is real stymie sometimes. We are not making progress, and I personally had to step away from that kind of activism because it's very deflating. I couldn't do something that that seemed that unproductive. As much as I believe in it, I'm not going to beat my head against a wall. I just can't.
All right, so I've got a question for the panel. This is a brilliant idea for a question. Thank you, Kathleen. So let me start with you. What changes have you seen in the flavor and the direction when we started and now? What's different about the FSP?
Oh, it's a very different project. Very different project today. In the beginning, without a history, it's very academic. It was Jason Sorens. It was a paper. It was libertarians sitting around doing what they do, doing with their clothes on, but that's what it was. And, one by one, starting with Jackie, a few of us said, well, at least we'll come together and be a community. Who knows, who knows if we'll see liberty in our lifetime, but, we're going to give it the old college try. So in the beginning, I would say it was mostly like people like us, burnouts from the Libertarian Party who said, well, let's try something else. This isn't working very well. And so we did a lot of brainstorming. I mean, you sit around and you brainstorm. Well, what can we do? What should we do? Well, let's go stand on the corner with signs. Okay, we'll go stand on the corner with signs. Somebody's having a problem over in Portsmouth. Let's go back him up. Let's go stand behind him when he's at the town meeting or something, and it was enjoyable, but it wasn't necessarily productive. But now we have 12 years of history. We have 2,000 people. We have people who have tried this and tried that, and people who say, well, I want to go this direction and that direction. So now the choices are tremendous, and we have people coming who aren't academics for the most part, because these are people who want to do something. And so, see, it's happening in New Hampshire. People are doing things, so I can go and do it in New Hampshire. Whereas we were just wanted community. We wanted more than 6 people around a table once a month, and we got it.
The biggest change, the most positive change I've seen is credibility. Give you an example. In the early days, I was part of Don Garman's School of Politics, and he was teaching us how to testify, and we went up to get some practice in on the dental hygienist bill. Dental hygienists wanted to be out from underneath the dentist. They wanted, it's already been pointed out, things are pretty bleak up north. The dental hygienists were actually willing to send people in their community up there to provide that kind of maintenance that the dentist didn't want because there wasn't enough money in it for him. So I was in the men's room in one of the stalls, and a couple lobbyists came in who were lobbying for the dentist. And it was, these people, blah, blah, blah. When are they going to get tired and stop doing this? And those Free Stater people, what silly people they are. Hey, they ain't laughing no more.
And for the record, what was the disposition on that bill?
That one we keep losing.
Oh.
We haven't been able to actually get it through yet. One of the problems with changing the law is there's so many ways to kick the can down the road, and if it's a tough vote, legislators will take the out. Oh, let's have a study committee. We'll study. Yeah. As far as I know, unless something's changed in the last year, those poor dental hygienists, even after 12 years, they're still trying to get out from underneath the dentist control.
I do know that we prevented any attempt, or all the attempts that have been made to regulate home interior decorating, which is a completely deregulated activity in New Hampshire. We will possibly die of bad feng shui. Jackie, do you have some insight as to how things have changed from 0 till 2000?
Yes, the biggest change, when I came here, there were no Free Staters, and now there are 2,000 Free Staters approximately, a bunch more on the way. The size has been kind of overwhelming to me, and I think just the size alone almost I don't know. It is, and the credibility, and definitely. I mean, I hear the name out there. I hear it around. Like I said, from people who like us and people who don't. And when you start hearing people who don't, then you know you're getting somewhere. So I think I don't know anything specific other than that.
Don?
Yeah, I agree with the size. I mean, I definitely remember those first few meetings in Manchester where there was, we'd get together, and I think one of the big ones was like about 35 or 37 or something people in there. And at the time, it just struck me that I had been to the state Libertarian Party thing in South Carolina, and there was 30-something people there. And that was a once a year type meeting where you got just about everybody that was there. And this was just a one-time monthly meeting with first early Free Staters. We had just as many people. And one of the other things I think, again, it was a credibility thing, the gold standard. Okay, when it first came out, it's like nobody knew. It was just a yellow sheet. They called it the gold sheet. So it's like, no, the Free Staters knew what it was, but nobody else did. And today you hear about legislators who aren't even Free Staters trying to vote that gold standard because they know that they're going to get some people behind them for it.
Absolutely. I do want to say the gold standard was an amazing accomplishment as far as credibility, to where now in political circles in New Hampshire, you have the Republicans, the Democrats, and the Liberty Alliance. And with the gold standard and the incredibly great work that a cadre of people every single week during the session are reading all the bills and coming up with a great, can we have 3 bullet points, short little things why this is a good idea, even if you don't agree with us on all the other libertarian stuff, this bill this way because freedom, liberty, and apple pie. And that has been phenomenal, the dedication involved. Yes, sir. Question.
So since moving up to New Hampshire in 2007, I've had lots of surprising moments that just I was surprised by the movement at the FSP. If you live anywhere else, it's the bizarro world that's actually normal, where nobody gives a crap about everything crumbling around them, about how the state is ruling their lives and nothing's working right. That's the real bizarro world, right? When I came up here, I came into a different bizarro world where people were interested in what I was interested in, and maybe if I was interested in something, they'd even come out in activism, and even New Hampshire natives too. If I tried running for state rep, and I was just surprised at what came out of the woodwork. You want to help me? What, you want to dedicate your time? That doesn't happen, not at least from where I moved from. Are you crazy? Oh, you're the same kind of crazy as me. Oh, interesting. So, but I was wondering if you had those moments, and if you can recall those moments. For me, when I tried to run for state rep, that was a big moment. I was like, you care too? Do you have any of those moments that you can recall? Just surprises you, and just your bizarro world, New Hampshire Free State Project moment?
Well, I think some of my best surprises aren't Free State Project related. It's meeting natives, and they get it just as much as my community does. They understand. You meet your neighbor, and he's got 6 kids. They were born at home and they're homeschooled at home. And I go, this doesn't happen other places. This only happens in New Hampshire. This is why we moved, because everyone gets it, even if they don't know what a Free Stater is.
There was a native New Hampshire person that I was talking to, and I was inviting them to my housewarming party. And this individual, I had known the person because I had come out a couple of times to check out New Hampshire and settle, find a place to live and everything, get everything in order. And I was trying to tell the person, this was not a necessarily liberty-minded person. It was just a person I met here randomly. And I was trying to explain to them what kind of people might be showing up at this party. And I was trying to gently say, look, there might be some people with marijuana at this event, and I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, you know, and she goes, do you have any now? So it was a bizarro moment, and I didn't even think anything. It was the last thing I was thinking. I just wanted her to feel comfortable, and I didn't want her to walk into a room that. But the New Hampshire natives are very friendly and very nice, and also I asked all of the people who were coming to the housewarming party. It was mostly New Hampshire natives, although a few of the earlier curious staters, I guess, were kind of coming. But I asked everyone to not please bring any gifts, and everyone showered massive gifts. So they're very generous, kind, really good people. You know, just the natives and the locals here just really do reach out.
I want to share a little personal thing. I just moved into Concord. It was the middle of the winter, and I was shoveling snow in my driveway. It's back-breaking work, and my neighbor is a pickup truck, and he comes out behind. He's pulling out, and he stops in front of my driveway. And he rolls down his window, and I haven't met this guy yet. And he just yells out, he goes, "Hey, are you one of those free staters?" And I have a bumper sticker on my car, so yes. He goes, "Well, it's about time. When the rest of you coming? We got all these problems going on. When are you gonna get over here?" All right. So to wrap it up, I want to ask each of the panelists, in one sentence, I know there's a politician on the table, but in one sentence, your pearl of wisdom to impart to the masses who've not yet moved, to the 18,000 who are about to show up. What's the one sentence they need to know?
Get rid of your stuff.
The cold isn't so bad.
Don't hit a moose and don't fall on the ice.
Hurry.
Keenevention is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts at rrbi.co when you're serious about precious metals. We don't feed the banks. Bitcoin payment preferred. Online at rrbi.co.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.